It's a big deal to be the first pick in the NBA draft. Being the first pick is an honor shared by many great players, such as LeBron James and Shaquille O'Neal, but also several major busts, such as Anthony Bennett, who was selected number 1 overall by the Cavaliers in 2013 and was off the team by 2014. This year, there's no consensus number 1 pick, and we won't know who Minnesota selects until the time when draft night finally comes and the Timberwolves make their pick. But in this video, we're taking a look at some NBA contenders to be the number 1 NBA draft pick.
But first, a simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We are giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or MacBook Pro. It's all your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple.
LaMelo Ball. The Ball family already has plenty of fame around the NBA for its off-the-court antics and for Lonzo Ball being drafted number 2 overall by the Lakers. However, Lonzo's younger brother, LaMelo, is coming out this year after spending time in Lithuania and Australia playing professionally, and LaMelo may just one-up his brother by being selected number 1 overall rather than number 2. That's because LaMelo has a huge upside compared to some of the other point guards in the draft and has a natural athleticism that can't be taught. D'Angelo Russell is the starting point guard of the Timberwolves right now, but let's face it, there's not many franchises out there that would entrust Russell with the important position when a top prospect like Ball is available to draft instead. He brings both playmaking and scoring ability with a 6'7" frame. You shouldn't expect LaMelo to slack off in rebounding either, but his size hasn't hurt his ability to make plays for his teammates, as it looks like Ball is very much in the group of players that have strong athletic and technical skills without sacrificing much in either. The assists per 36 minutes metric paints a positive picture of his skills, as he averaged 7.9 assists, 8.7 rebounds, and 19.6 points per 36 minutes. It sounds like an exaggeration to say that LaMelo Ball could be a new Russell Westbrook, but there's not that many prospects that come into the league with statistics like this. Considering that Ball was playing overseas against older competition, these numbers are more intriguing. These statistics also provide an angle to justify taking Ball with the first pick. Other top prospects such as Anthony Edwards just aren't as good all around based on their statistics from college. There are some things that would raise red flags for some scouts. However, on the court, Ball has a tendency to play with flourish and go for flashy plays over ones that are the smartest for the situation. Off the court, the Ball family tends to have a bad reputation as a media circus and a distraction. While LeVar Ball hasn't been in the news as much as he was in the past, there's no telling if that trend would continue with another son entering the NBA and possibly going number 1 overall. Minnesota isn't as big of a market as Los Angeles is, and the Timberwolves aren't nearly as much of a high-profile team as the Lakers are. For that reason, there might be less conflict with the Ball family in the media. But in the age of social media, it doesn't take the New York or Los Angeles press to create controversies that can distract a team going into their season. Ball may be the best prospect in the draft, but uncertainty about whether or not his presence will become a headache for whichever team drafts him could potentially see Minnesota pass on him. Still, he's expected to be taken within the top 5 regardless. It's not every day you see a prospect like this after all. James Wiseman. James Wiseman doesn't want anything to do with Minnesota Timberwolves, according to a report from Brian Windhorst. That doesn't mean the Wolves don't want anything to do with Wiseman. The reasons for that probably have to do with some of the typical things that come up when a small market team in a city like Minneapolis has the number 1 overall pick. A lot of players don't want to get stuck in a market like this when there's more promising destinations such as Oakland, Chicago, and even New York City drafting a bit later. However, when it comes to on-the-court reasons, it appears that the problem is the potential clash between Karl Anthony Towns and Wiseman. They're both a similar size and they're both offensive centers, and both of them could end up taking the number 1 overall by the Timberwolves if Minnesota decides that Wiseman's refusal to meet with them isn't a good enough reason to avoid drafting him. The situation doesn't look that encouraging for Wiseman because Minnesota's team president has said that they'll consider all the options in the draft based on talent, even if looking at all the options means looking at positions like center, which the team already has covered. It's debatable how the team would actually plan on fitting Wiseman into their game plan, however. Whichever team does draft Wiseman is banking on his potential. He only played 3 games during his college career, but had a pretty good stat line during these 3 games, with his averages sitting around 20 points per game and 10 rebounds per game. His college career was largely cut short by NCAA regulations, as he was ruled ineligible due to head coach Penny Hardaway paying him $11,500 to help with the expenses of moving himself and his family to Memphis. It seems unlikely Minnesota will actually take Wiseman number 1 overall, both because of his lack of desire to play for the franchise and because of his lack of college experience. Most players coming into the league have at least 1 year of experience from college, but thanks to the suspension cutting his time at Memphis short, that's not the case for Wiseman. It's always hard to make predictions on players that have a limited sample size to draw from, and only having 3 college games is definitely a limited sample size. Anthony Edwards. There's no consensus top player in this year's draft like there's been during other years. But there is good reason to believe that Anthony Edwards will do big things in the NBA. And it does look like Edwards will have a draft position to match the potential that NBA scouts see in him so far. It's nearly guaranteed that Edwards is one of the top picks in the draft, but he may just exceed even that expectation and go number 1 overall. But let's go into the background first. Edwards is a 19-year-old and, like many of the other players going into the draft this year, only has 1 year of college experience. He played at the University of Georgia, traditionally a football school rather than a basketball school. However, he was a standout during this time with 32 starts during his 1 season with the team and an average of 19 points per game with 5.2 rebounds per game as a shooting guard. Those numbers aren't actually the best out of the top prospects in the draft. With Edwards, you aren't getting the dazzling passing and the pro experience of LaMelo Ball, and it also appears Edwards might have less upside in the long run. But even with those facts, Edwards is still one of the best prospects in the draft. Athleticism is of course a major talent in the sport of basketball, and Edwards is considered one of the most athletic prospects in the draft, which makes up for his more average stat lines in other areas of his game. Of course, his stats coming out of college are better than most NCAA players, but those stats alone aren't enough to push him into a spot where he's contending for the number 1 pick. For that, other factors have come into play. The shooting guard position is associated with contributing on both sides of the ball, and Edwards will have an easier time getting used to playing defense in the NBA thanks to his already strong physicals. Other players might get pushed around, but with a 6'5" height and a wingspan of almost 7 feet, Edwards already has an NBA body type. While there's other players that have more offensive play styles to pick from, Edwards does have a track record of leading Georgia and taking the big shots. The Timberwolves would get a good shooter if they select him, and his efficiency may go up with better surroundings. After all, Georgia is traditionally a football school rather than a basketball school. Their basketball program has a harder time attracting talent, leading Edwards needing to take higher share of the shots compared to what would be expected of him on an NBA roster. Still, while the Timberwolves going for Edwards definitely isn't an unlikely option, it's also far from a guarantee. Edwards is consistently rated as one of the top prospects in the draft, but isn't the consensus top pick by any stretch of the imagination. Denver Wolves to select Avdija if they want to go a less conventional direction with their pick. Avdija is also another international prospect and is one of the highest rated international players in the draft class at large. While Avdija was born in Israel, he holds his father was a former captain for Red Star Belgrade, and Avdija himself was a camp VMP in a Basketball Without Borders.
But first, a simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We are giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or MacBook Pro. It's all your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple.